Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Hunting Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and as usual, we got another good one for you today. Today, we actually have another repeat offender. We got Phil Wise on the podcast, but today, Phil didn't come alone. He actually brought a buddy with him. He brought Stevie Balderaz with him, and they just went on a pretty crazy Audad hunt, and they wanted to share the story with you guys. So I hope you guys enjoy. I want to say thank you again to Phil. He's been a good friend of mine since he jumped on the podcast, and if you didn't know this already, he was the first listener to actually call in and say, hey, I got some stories I want to tell. So thank you again to both Phil and Stevie. I don't want to steal any of their thunder, so let's just go ahead and kick this thing off and let them tell you their story. All right, fellas. Welcome to the Hunting Stories Podcast. How you both doing?
Doing good.
Yeah, good. This is, we don't often have multiple people on the podcast, but we got a special one today for a couple reasons. One, we have a new guest, Stevie. I'll let you introduce yourself real quick. Why don't we kick that off?
Sure, I'm Stevie Balderaz from Hereford, Texas. Been hunting for a while. Been excited to do this. I know we got asked, I think the day we left. And I've been excited ever since. Let's do it.
Good, man. Good. Well, nice to meet you, Stevie. I'm excited to hear your part of the story. We also have Phil Wise on the podcast again. Phil, you're kind of special because you are actually the first listener to be brave enough to say, hey, I got a story. And you were the first one of my listeners to come onto the podcast. So that's awesome. Secondly, since then, I feel like we've been pretty good friends, so I appreciate that, man. We've kept each other honest throughout the off-season, making sure that we're staying in shape for elk hunting. I should have had you doing more like breathing exercises, it sounds like. But yeah, man, so I want to say thank you for, again, reaching out. So, Stevie, I don't know if you know, but Phil was like, man, I had a crazy story, and he started breaking into it, and I was like, whoa. I don't like to hear any stories over Instagram. Let's get you back on the podcast, and here we are, man. So, right. Phil, for those who maybe haven't listened to your episode, why don't you introduce yourself for what I haven't already done?
Yeah, for sure. Philip Wise. I am originally from Colorado, but live in Lubbock, Texas now. Been hunting since I was, I think I was 10 or 11 when I went on my first deer hunt. And all that's in my episode. The first one, I think it's episode like 20, 21, somewhere in that ballpark. But
I'll look it up here.
Been hunting for a while, done a bunch of different stuff, started chasing elk and mule deer and whitetail, and we'll get into some other stuff in this story. But yeah, been chasing critters, started bow hunting a little bit more recently, and super excited about that. But got a rifle in my hand again this season, so pumped about that too.
Nice, man. Nice. Yeah, and your episode is 21, so good memory. I've done so many of these, it's hard for me to keep them straight, but you have an amazing mule deer story. If you guys want to hear it, make sure you check out Phil's first episode. Quick question for you fellas. How do you guys know each other? Let's start with that.
Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, so we met through a mutual friend of ours, a guy named Kyle Morrow that owns a CrossFit gym now in Hereford, but he used to do CrossFit with me in Canyon. And when he moved to Hereford and opened his gym, I was going over their gym a little bit and, hanging out and working out with them, and met Stevie through that. And actually Stevie I don't know if he knows this or not, but Stevie is the guy that took me, quote unquote, on my first bow hunt. First time I ever had a bow in my hand with live animals was on Stevie's deer lease. Little short side story. I shot a deer. I tipped a wire, that little fence around their feeders to keep the cows off of it. I tipped a wire and I shot this deer right in the butt cheek. And I had a strobing red and blue Luminoc in that arrow, and it was getting dark, and it's in the wide open, and it looks like there's a cop car driving across this field because that Luminoc is still just flashing as it's getting dark. And so I was texting Stevie when I was in the blind. I was like, hey, dude, if it looks like a police car is coming over there, you should shoot it. That's a deer that I wounded, so hopefully you can get this. I don't think we ever did find that deer. But so, yeah, I've been hunted with Stevie a little bit before this story, and that's kind of how we know each other.
Yep, that's awesome.
I remember that day well, and I remember Philip was excited as hell to shoot. I think he was just getting into the bow.
I literally had been shooting a bow for less than 6 months at that hunt, like probably less than 3 months at that point. So that's was thrilled. And then, my first bow experience was not great. Wounded deer, never found it.
But a pretty great visual, like a police car deer flying through an open field.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
That's
Phil will blame it on the wind.
Yeah, the wind. The wind, the wire on the
Panhandle wind.
feeder, or on the fence, whatever. It's probably just that I got buck fever and just sucked at shooting. But
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, right?
That's
yep.
right.
Cool. Well, you guys had a pretty epic hunt this season. So I don't know, Phil, if you want to go into your elk season at all, that was less than epic, I think. But then you hit me up for a Barbary sheep, also known as an Audad hunt. So I'll let you guys kind of take it off. Let's dive into this thing. Kind of set the stage for us, Phil or Stevie.
Yeah, I'll start because the rodeo of this hunt started before even Stevie got involved. I'll give you the quick recap of elk season. One bull in a wallow, altitude sickness, one bull in oak brush that I couldn't see, went home.
Yeah.
There we go.
Altitude sickness is real, man. You hunted at what, 12,000 feet?
I hunted everything from like 12,000 to 8,500, and it didn't matter where I was at. It seems like once I got over about 6, I was just getting smoked.
That sucks, man. That sucks.
So.
That's a tough way to lose a season. I know a lot of hunters have gone that way. I think Guy DePlanche from Western Contours even had a season where he is anything over 10, he was just gone. Like couldn't do it, and he just had you can lose a whole season quick.
Yep.
So, yeah, for sure.
But, but yeah.
Yeah, and in light of all that, after that season's over, I'm kind of like, I've got a mule deer hunt coming up still, but I really haven't got to go on like a cool adventure because I've been sick the whole time. And my cousin calls me and says, "Hey, I've got this Barbary sheep hunt." He gives me like 6 days notice. So it's like he calls me on a Friday and the hunt starts the next Friday. He's like, if you can find some guys to go with you, kind of here's what it costs. And I'm like, well, I can't swing it by myself, but boy, if I can get a couple guys to go with me, like this is going to be a sweet deal. And he's, he's sending me all these pictures of sheep and he's like, this hunt is awesome. So
you sent me all of those pictures, right? And
I shotgun everyone in my phone. Like, who do I know that hunts that I can maybe talk into going on this on short notice? And I'm sending message after message after message. And it's like, no, I can't. One guy was like, I'd love to, but I'm going moose hunting. Another guy was like, I'd love to, but I've got a mule deer tag. And it's just like all these, right. And I'm like, man. And so I'm that's through my, like, my Lubbock group of friends that hunt. Man, who else do I know? And I was like, I'll call Stevie. And I kind of second guessed it because I was like, man, I hadn't talked to Stevie in a while. Like since I moved to Lubbock, I hadn't been back to the gym at Hereford for a long time. I was like, I haven't talked to him in a minute. Like, I hope he doesn't think I'm, a creeper. I haven't talked
ghosted
to him.
Me for 3 years.
Yeah, ghosted him for 3 years. Like I follow him on social media, but I'm the worst at, I'm the worst friend ever. I don't ever reach out to anybody. I'm just like, oh, I see you're still alive. We're good to go. So I call Stevie, tell him the deal, and he's like, bro, I'm in. Like, sign me up. And so we had one other guy that was supposed to go with us, and some stuff came up with him, and so he didn't wind up going. So it was just me and Stevie, and we got this hunt, and so we take off. In the meantime, in between all this, my cousin has called me and he said, "Hey, here's where you're going. Like, here's where camp is at. Here's where all the gates are that you need to go through to get in there. Like, here's some places I've left them." And he's given me all these pins on Onyx, right? And so this hunt, I will say, disclaimer at the beginning, I made a bunch of rookie dumb mistakes that I don't know why I made. And number one was,
that's what makes this hunt awesome.
Yeah, that's what makes it awesome. So the first mistake I made is, as I'm talking to him, he's like, "Hey, when you get to camp and when you get down there, you'll have service. So like call out and do whatever if you get lost or something, you need help." I'm like, cool, no big deal. So I don't download my maps on Onyx. Which is, I do that all the time. Like, it doesn't matter where I'm going. I always download my maps offline just in case something happens. Like, you have them and you can see actually where you are. So me and Stevie bomb down. We're hunting just, kind of around the Marfa area. We get down there. We get to the ranch, or not to the ranch. We get to where we're supposed to turn in to go to this place. Get to the first gate. I'm like, all right, the combo on the lock is this. Stevie jumps out to get the gate, and he comes back. And it takes him a little bit, and he comes back, and he's like, dude, there's not a combo lock on this gate.
I said maybe he meant a key. There was three locks with that would take a key, and he kept telling me, "Yeah, Josh is saying, it'll take this is the code or whatever." And I'm like, man, this isn't gonna work.
Yeah. So I'm thinking like, man, maybe the guys that own this place forgot to maybe they put the combo lock out just for the hunters, and like, we got there early and they haven't got it put out or something. I don't know. But we are on the X of this waypoint that my cousin sent me. Like we could not be more on the spot. There's not another gate around. Like, this is the spot. So we turn around, we drive back up the hill to get service out of where we're at, get service and call him. Actually, hang on. We had drove a little further down the road and we got to a cattle guard that had a sign on it that named this ranch. And I'm not gonna name the place, but it was not what it says in Onyx. So the sign and what I know what it said in Onyx because I couldn't pronounce it definitely wasn't what was on that sign. And so I'm like, I don't want to cross this cattle guard and like be trespassing. Turn around, drive back up to town, call Josh. And he's like, no, you need to go across the cattle guard. That's the right place. Whatever. And so we drive and we get on the roughest road I think either one of us have ever. I don't know. I can't speak for Stevie, but it's the roughest road I've ever drove on. I mean, it like to beat my truck to death.
I felt bad for that F-250.
Yeah,
was it
we'll
just
talk
the
about
road itself, or was there brush going over the road? Just everything.
rocks.
Just everything.
I mean,
Side coming from the side. They had such jagged rocks. I mean, it was taking chunks out of rubber. I mean, it was.
Oh my god!
It had to be. They had washouts that were extreme.
yeah,
That's why I always let my friends drive when I'm hunting.
I had to get 3 new tires on my pickup actually when I got home because there was literally like golf ball size hunks of tread getting hacked out of my tires.
Way.
Oh
wow. Yeah. Okay. That's
yeah.
crazy.
So this road's gnarly. We get in. As we're going in and my cousin says, hey, once you cross this gate, basically like you're on the place, start hunting. You hunt your way into camp the first night. We glassed some sheep up. I don't know anything about Barbary sheep. I don't know how spooky they are. Like I don't know what you can get away with. And so we glassed some sheep from probably like 1,000 yards away, and we're driving really slow and we're trying to get up there and see if we can find a ram, and it just kind of didn't work out the first night. Again, we were going probably way too cautious, but didn't know what the deal was.
Yeah.
Rolling to camp. Camp is just a big metal building that's got like cots and a propane cook stove and a big water tank that they have plumbed through with PVC pipe into a sink. So it's not a house, but it's definitely
fancy. Nothing fancy.
Not a tent.
Yeah. Keep you
and
alive.
So, yeah, keep you alive, keep you out of the rain. I don't know that it ever rains there, but if it did. And so, Stevie, I'll let you tell this part, but we start unloading all of our stuff and getting into the shed. And so the building, like half of it is on just like the foundation is just on the ground. And then it kind of runs downhill. So the other half, they had to build up a little bit so that, to keep the floor level.
One was like a dirt floor. You could tell it was once dirt. Had those paver bricks, making a new floor. You walk into the next room and it's a wooden floor. You can where it was built up.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we got unloaded. We're putting our bags on the bed. We were kind of going to be catty corner from each other. And I find the furthest bed to the corner, clip next to the windows, pretty nice. Big, thick mattress on this sucker. And I set my bag down and I heard this rattle. And I was like, well, no freaking way. Day we get here, there's a rattlesnake underneath the bed, and I'm looking around the bed. I mean, through the wall. I mean, there's 6 beds in there. So we're just searching around. I set my gun down and I'm like, you got to be shitting me. There's a snake here. And so I do remember this. We couldn't, you could tell it was underneath the floor, the wooden floor. So we went out around the back and I grabbed the first thing I see and I grabbed the damn broom. feel like
Perfect
Superman fucking finds a damn shovel somewhere and we go searching for the snake. But long story short, we never found the snake and I damn sure didn't sleep in that bed.
And the whole evening, so that whole night as we're walking, when you'd get back into that corner, he'd start off again. So like he'd quit rattling at one point.
Yeah, right when you'd step there.
Yeah, far enough on the floor, he'd start, and I was like, I wasn't worried about him crawling up there into the room anymore, but I was like, man, I ain't gonna get any sleep if this snake is buzzing all night. And I'm not really gonna dig underneath this house and see if I can find him. So yeah, we had the snake.
I'm sleeping in my truck.
Hey, that's where I was headed. That's exactly where I was headed.
Yeah. So we get up, thinking of creatures in the house too. I forgot about this guy. We get up the next morning, and every morning that we were there, this happened. But we had this little mouse. I started calling him Theodore, just joking around. But he would run. This mouse would come out, and he ran literally almost the same tracks every morning. He'd come out from behind the main door. He'd run across the kitchen floor towards the bedroom, and then he'd run up the bed. Like there's like a sliding barn door that keeps the kitchen and the sleeping area separate. He'd run up the barn door. He'd come back down the barn door. He'd run behind the workbench, and then he'd come back out, and he'd sit at the end of that workbench and look at us while we drank coffee and ate breakfast. And he did it all 3 mornings that we were there.
Yep.
It was hilarious.
I wonder if maybe somebody had like been there often enough and fed him so that he's like, hey, if I sit here, they'll see me, they'll feed me.
I have no clue what it was. He was just a little bitty mouse.
Huh.
So the first morning rolls around, we start, kind of get our stuff put together. And the way that this place is, like, you can hunt, right? Like the house is in the middle of the country that you can hunt. So there's really no point in like getting up super early and going anywhere. You can start hunting as soon as it's daylight.
Yeah, we were kind of like in a valley, so you had 360 degrees to hunt. I mean, you could have hunted. We could have sat there and hunted.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if we wanted to. And so kind of a little more for the listeners to get the gist of how this country runs. The road that comes in runs east and west, and then it turns and runs north and south. And it turns around this one lone peak, and we'll call that Missy's Peak. And then Missy's Peak is connected by a saddle to this big cliff band that kind of runs almost the same direction of the road, parallel to the road. So it runs east and west in front of camp, and then it turns and goes north and south, kind of as you drive around it. And there's a saddle that connects that one lone peak to that other side. And the other side's got 3 big rock outcroppings on the side of it. I don't remember what they had a name for it. I think like Brothers or something like that.
Yeah.
So as you're driving, you can get around, and at one point you can see basically a third to a half of that Missy's Peak and a good portion of that face of the Brothers. You can glass all of it from one spot. And so I said, hey, the first morning, I'm like, let's go. I've got a spot marked. Like, we can drive up there. We can crawl up a little hill if we need to, or we can just glass out of the pickup, and we can see a lot of country and see if we can find sheep. And the other thing, before we started glassing, Josh is like, hey, have you ever hunted sheep before? I'm like, no, I don't know anything about them. I know nothing. He's like, man, you guys are going to suck. He's like, they're so hard to see. They're hard to glass. They're hard to find. You guys are going to look over so many sheep. And it's like, this thing that I'm like, man, it's a surefire deal. Like, we're going to go get some sheep killed now. He's like, no, you guys are going to suck. You're going to miss so many sheep.
Yeah. He didn't give us a chance at all.
No. So I got a dog in him for that. So we get up the first morning and start glassing. And as soon as daylight breaks on that lone peak, that Missy's Peak, on the face that we can see, there's a group of, Stevie, tell me if I'm lying,
50,
40, 50. Yeah. There's just sheep everywhere. And
it looked like the side of the mountain was just moving.
Yeah, that's awesome. They're everywhere. And another thing, the way this country runs is like, you can walk pretty easily up about halfway up those peaks. But like, once you get past half, it gets real steep, real shady, and then it cliffs out a lot. I mean, you could get all the way to the top if you had to, but like, it gets nasty
right
past about halfway up it. So it's kind of like mesa looking country almost.
Yeah.
And those sheep are feeding from the top of that peak. They have fed down and they're headed towards the bottom. And then they're also kind of heading away from us. So they're heading towards that saddle. And we're glassing, and I'm like, we got really good wind right there. I'd listened to as many podcasts as I could find about hunting sheep, and they said their thing is to try to get the sun behind you when you're stalking them so they can't see you as well, and the sun is coming up behind us. I'm like, Stevie, this is perfect.
Yeah, it was a perfect storm for sure.
Yeah, let's just go. We're going to side hill. We're going to get on that Brothers side, but they're feeding over. Like, we're just going to go straight at them, and we'll probably cut them off. And, we can then have a chance to glass over this giant group of sheep, and I'm sure we can find a good ram in that group to shoot. And so, rookie mistake number 2 that I make, where there's another one coming, but I decided, like, hey, I had my phone plugged in. I had to plug in all night. I was like, I'm just going to leave it charging, so I've got full battery for the day. Leave my phone in the truck, which I literally never do. We take off after these sheep.
Well, we also didn't think we were going to go as far. I mean, they seemed like they were right there. Let's go 300. Let's go 300 yards, and we'll be right on top of them.
Yeah, they're like 800 yards away, and I'm like, man, we ain't got to get, but 300 or 400 yards in the way they're feeding, we'll be within a couple hundred yards of them. So we take off after the sheep. As we're going, we start kicking up javelina, and I bet you we jumped, I don't know, 8, 10 javelina, and they're like running
absolutely
right at the sheep, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, nope, we're done. Like, these javelina are going to screw our deal up. And I keep waiting to hear those sheep run off, or you could see them if they were running off. They couldn't have hid from you. Never see them. In the middle of bumping these javelinas, above us on that brother side to the right, we hear rocks start falling. And I'm like, well, that's weird. So we stop and glass up there. Well, there's sheep up there. Probably another 20, 30, a bunch of groups. There's sheep everywhere. And my first thought is like, there's no way that this giant group of 40 sheep in front of us beat us across. I mean, we're going slow, but we ain't going that slow. Beat us across the draw and got all the way up to the top of that other peak, and we didn't see it. Like it couldn't happen. But I can't find them now at this point. They've fed all the way down to the bottom, and I can't find them. I can't see them. And so I dropped my pack with Stevie, and I'm like, hey, you look up at the group of sheep at the top, see if there's a ram up there we want to shoot. I'm going to keep sneaking forward and see if I can find this big group and see where they went. And as I'm doing that, I bust another javelina up. And as I'm walking, I hear Stevie behind me going, and I'm like,
what? I mean, that bastard almost bulldozed me. As soon as he came out from underneath Phil, I mean, he ran right to me, and apparently they're not very good at with sight. But God dang, I mean that came right to my feet. I jumped, and I was over there shooting away, and that thing went right around me.
And so I can't figure out what he's doing. I'm like, is he trying to get my attention? Like, what are you doing? Why are you making this noise? And he's like, the javelina was like, I could have kicked him in the face. He was so close. So I get to get going. I'm like, okay, well, like back to hunting. I keep sneaking, and I never do see these sheep, but I get close if I can hear them, and they sound just like sheep. I mean, just like a farm sheep would. So I'm like, dude, I can't see him. He's looked up at those sheep on the top. He's like, I don't see anything up there that I really want to, go after, and they are way up there, and it's really steep. So he's like, I'm like, all right, well, I think these sheep are just right over this little rise. I can hear them. They got to be close. Stevie, drop your pack with mine. We'll take our guns. We'll sneak really, really slow and, sneak and glass, almost like still hunting. We'll sneak and glass, and we'll see if we can get on these sheep and find them. So we take off again. And this is where that mistake of leaving my phone in the truck comes into play. If I ever leave my pack, I always drop a pin on Onyx just to be like, well, that's where my pack's at. Because again, I'm thinking we're going to go like 50 yards over this little rise, and they're going to be right there. 50 yards over the rise, no sheep. I can still hear them. We keep sneaking. How far do you think we got from our packs before we got set up?
God. I'd say
400 yards
500,
at least.
Yeah,
we get a ways from our packs. See some sheep. We see like 6 or 8 head of sheep just kind of cruising. And so now, again, people kind of understand, we are looking. There's like a little cut in this face that goes up to on the brother side. These 6 or 8 sheep are on the north facing side of that. So we're looking, they're on the south facing side of that. We're looking to the north. We can see these 8 or 6, 8 sheep, whatever it is. We're on the north facing side. We are just barely crested up over it high enough where we can see that other face. But again, there's only 8 sheep, and there was 40, 50, 60 of them earlier. And I'm still like, where in the heck are you?
What's their approximate distance, like across this draw?
Like 200 and, I don't know, like 235, 250, 300.
Okay. So I assume no shooters in this 8, or are you just like so cut up with seeing all of them you're not worried about?
Yeah, we're so cut up on seeing all of them. We wanted to see that best one. Okay. We wanted to see something that we look.
So we wanted to make sure it was the best of the 40, not the best.
Damn right.
Got it.
Damn right.
Yeah, so we're glassing these 8, and we don't know at this point yet. We don't know where the big group's at. We just know where this little group is. And we're looking, and I'm like, there's one ram in there, but like, I don't know, Steve. If you like him, you can shoot him, but I don't know. I don't know how to judge him. I don't know. If he makes you happy, go for it. And I don't know what happened. I had turned maybe to glass up the hill on those other sheep and see if a ram had came out up there. And all of a sudden, the side of the hill that we can't see, so the side we're on, gets up. And all those sheep, plus some more sheep, stand up. And they're not really running off. Like, we have bumped them, but they're not like freaked out leaving the country. They all get up and they start milling around, and they all get on the face that we can see. And so now there's like 60 head of sheep over there. And I'm frantically trying to glass, and Stevie's probably doing the same thing. I'm like, we got to find a big one. Like, let's find a shooter in this group. There's got to be one. There's so many of them. And I see a ram that I think is pretty good, and he's at the like top right corner. If you imagine a rectangle of sheep across his face, he's in the top right corner. And Stevie's on his gun, looking, and I can tell he's like, we're getting close to ready to shoot. So I start putting earplugs in because I don't want to be standing behind him, shooting a 300 Win with the muzzle brake on it, and I'm behind him. And kind of to the side, I don't want to get my eardrum blown out. And so I'm trying to walk him in. I'm like, hey, Stevie, this sheep is top right corner. He's got like 8 ewes below him in a straight line. He's just standing there in a wide open broadside. I think he's a good one. Shoot him. And he's saying something back to me, but I can't hear him because I got one earplug in. And I'm like, waiting, and he's not shooting. And I'm waiting, and he's not shooting. And I'm like, dude, he's like right there. He's standing like he's going to move. And Stevie says, he's behind a rock. And right as he said that, I pulled my binos down to be like, what rock? There's not a rock within 100 yards of the sheep I'm looking at. And as soon as I pull my binos down, the one Stevie's looking at, steps out and he shoots, boom, and the whole hillside just blows up. Sheep going, and I don't have a clue. As the spotter, like, I have zero idea what sheep he just shot or shot at.
Yeah.
We were definitely not on the same page.
No, horrible communication. And it's probably my fault as a spotter, not like walking in instead of me trying to walk him into my sheep, trying to figure out what sheep he was looking at. Sheep go everywhere. They all kind of group back up. They run across the saddle and they go up that Missy's peak. So they've gone back to the other side now, and I'm glassing all these sheep as they're running up, like looking for one that's got blood on it or that's limping or something. I'm like, I got nothing. Every sheep that goes up there looks just fine. And so the other thing I saw on the way down, Stevie, we were talking about his gun, and I'm a bagging you, little Stevie. Sorry, but he's like, hey,
no, you were bagging me. What are you talking about?
He's like, I haven't shot this gun in 3 years, but my brother-in-law killed a sheep with it like last year, but I haven't shot it since then. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I have no idea if your gun's on, but I'm gonna trust you, and we're gonna say that it is.
Yeah.
But I also know he didn't bring his gun in a case. It was just tied to his pack when he threw it in my truck in that road we went down. I'm like, I could definitely see it knocking the scope off somehow. Like, I mean, it's rough.
Yeah.
So he shoots, and I hear the bullet hit, but I can't tell, like, did he hit a critter or like one of these big boulders? It's just, it's just boulders kind of scattered everywhere. I mean, did he hit a big rock? Like, I don't know. I heard the bang, and I heard a for sure whap.
Right.
I got nothing as far as where he's at. And so he shoots, and he's like, no, I think I smoked him. Shot felt great. Everything's good. I'm like, okay, well, let's go back and get our packs because we don't have any knives or anything with us, and that'll give us enough time to like let that sheep lay and all will be good. And so we head back in the direction of our packs, and so mind you,
that was a shit show.
Yeah, that was a shit show. And this is all taken probably, what was it, 3 hours from the time we spotted those sheep until you shot?
Oh, absolutely. It was at least 3 hours out from the time we left the truck to the time we shot. It was 3 hours, every bit of.
So we've been doing all this back and forth. We haven't had a pack for most of it, which is where I keep my water, and we'll talk about that in a minute. We start heading back, and I'm like, well, our packs are just right there, and we keep going. He's like, no, dude, we're further away. I'm like, no, man, they should be like right here. Like, now, so we walk and we walk and we walk. It probably takes us another 40 minutes to an hour. We do get our packs found, but it takes us forever to find them because I don't have a phone, I don't have a pen, I have no clue where we are.
I mean, every rock looked the same. That each washout that we passed. I mean, it was like, this is it. Yeah. No, it's not.
Yeah, 100%. So we finally get packs on. I put my pack on. It's like probably 80 degrees at this point. It's 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock, something like that. And I pull my little drink hose up that I had run out of my bladder, and zero water in there. I had not refilled my bladder for milk season. Again, always refill my water before I leave. I just don't know why I didn't. Got no agua. And Steve doesn't have any his pack either. And we're like far enough from the truck that we don't really want to walk back to the truck. We're like, yeah, it's fine. Like, we'll just walk up there and find him, and it'll be no big deal. So we head back towards where the sheep is, right? This is a dumb decision.
Oh, no.
Head back towards...
Michael knows where this is going.
Yeah.
Yeah. We go to where he shot.
I've heard enough stories to know that these decisions were made in haste. But keep going.
Yeah, this was dumb. We get back to where he shot, and I'm like, all right, walk me into like where he was on the mountainside from here. You tell me where he was at, where he was standing. We've glassed over there. I don't see a sheep, but that doesn't really mean anything. I mean, if they lay down behind all these rocks, you'd lose them. You couldn't see them. So he's like, it's this big square rock. He was coming out just from behind it, moving from like right to left. I'm like, cool. We can it's a really prominent big boulder. We can walk right over to it and look. So we walk across the canyon, get over there, start looking. No sheep, no blood, no big white spot on a rock where his bullet missed and hit. Like, we got nothing.
Zero.
He's like, man, I think this sheep. He's like, I think he went uphill. And I'm like, dude, if you hit him, he wouldn't have gone uphill.
Yeah,
he'd have gone downhill.
Stevie, what made you think he was uphill? Like, what made that pop in your mind?
Absolutely nothing. I mean, what? Absolutely nothing.
Hopes and prayers.
I was telling Phil, like once we were walking from where I shot to where I thought I shot him, like I kept thinking, man, I mean, something's telling me he's gone up. Something told me, I don't think he went with the rest of the sheep. They went down into that saddle, through the washout, and then back up, sister. So I was like, man, I didn't see him. I mean, when I shot, I threw another shell in. I scanned throughout the herd. I didn't see him. And so I'm like, man, something's just telling me he's either right here. He might have been a little bit further behind the rock when I shot him, but he's either behind it or he's gone up. And so go ahead, Phil.
Yeah. So he's like, man, I think he went up. And I'm like, dude, there's no way he went up. He went downhill. So we're scouring and scouring and scouring. And I'm like, at this point, I'm thinking he hadn't shot his gun in 3 years. Like, he probably missed because he should be right here. From what he's telling me, from what he's looking at in the scope, he should be right here, and we're not seeing him.
Yeah, you're doing the math at this point.
Yeah, and so I'm like, all right, before we get too crazy, like, let's just see if your gun's on. So shoot back across. Let's just find a rock, shoot back across to where we were starting to shoot at, and let's just see if your gun's way off, so we can save our, if it's 4 feet off, like, we'll just save ourselves the time and agony of hiking around here, and we'll go sight your gun or whatever.
My ass, he doubted me.
I did doubt him. I was like, he missed 100%.
I've had this exact conversation with a buddy.
I could see after like the first 45 minutes to an hour, I could see in his face the doubt.
I had no confidence left in Stevie. So he lines up on this rock on the other side. And he's like, I'm going to shoot it right in this, right in the middle of this rock. And I'm glassing and he shoots. Boom. And I mean, you couldn't hit it more dead center. Like, it is perfect. And I'm like, damn it, he hit this sheep. Now I can't. Now I'm really upset because, like, I'm thinking at least if he missed, like, we don't have a wounded sheep running around. But now we've got a sheep hit, and I'm pretty positive we've got him hit. We're not going to find it. So I'm like, all right, dude, this is the only thing I can think to do is I'm going to send you back across the canyon to where you shot from. I'm going to stay over here. You go back to where you shot from, get in your gun, and, like, walk me into where you think he was standing when you shot. So that, because I think, maybe he was further away than we think. I didn't have a range on that sheep. Like, I had a range on the hillside. So we were within, 40, 50 yards of where the actual sheep was, but I didn't know exactly how far his sheep was.
Yeah.
So send him back over. He's cruising around back and forth and he can't find the spot where he shot at. I'm still grid searching up there and I'm not finding anything. Like, I can't, there's tracks. That's the only thing I can find, but there was just 60 sheep up there. So of course there's tracks. And I'm like, I got nothing, man. And so I go back across the canyon to him. He can't quite find the spot where he shot from. And I just, dumb luck, walk across there and I look down and I find his piece of brass. And I'm like, oh, bro, you were shooting from right here. Okay, Get back on your gun, look back over there and tell me where he's at. He's like, I'm telling you, he is by this big square rock that we've been walking around.
Yeah, never did it change. I mean, he was damn sure there.
Yeah.
So, again, we're both out of water. It's now probably noon. We haven't had water in
5 hours.
Or more.
Left camp.
Since we left camp, right? We've had I had like 2 swallows of water out of an Nalgene in my truck. And it's hot. Like, it's getting close to 90. And I'm like, man, whatever. Like, I know this sheep's hit because I've seen you shoot. And if you tell me a shot's good, like, I still believe. Now I believe you that you shot him. So I say, let's, Stevie, grab a knife. But let's leave our packs because we can see him on this hill. Like, let's leave our packs there so we can range and hit our packs so that we know exactly the line that we're looking at. Because it's like, we kind of think we know where we can see this pack. We can see, like, this is exactly where you shot from. Here's the line. Here's where he should be. So we go back across the canyon to where he shoots the sheep at.
For the third time.
For the third time.
We've
probably done close to a mile worth of walking, literally just back and forth the 250 or 300 yards of the shot.
Yeah.
Get back up there, and I finally find blood, like
a quarter size.
Like, yeah, maybe total. If you put both of the droplets together, a quarter size.
Yeah,
that's it. And I'm like, I'm telling you, the sheep went downhill. Like, if you hit him good, this looks like lung blood. Like, he didn't go up. Nothing goes up when you shoot him good. Like, they go down. He's like, bro, I don't know. I think he went up. And I'm like, I don't think he did. And so we go grid searching again. From where the blood is downhill. We search and we look and no more blood. We can't find anything.
And it was kind of like the SpongeBob. It was like 3 hours later. You know what I mean? Like, it took forever.
And I'm finally like, I'm done. And I'm about to tell him, like, it's hot. I'm hungry. I'm thirsty.
We're both sunburnt. We're tired. We're hot.
Like, it's getting to the point where I'm like, dude, we need to go back and get food and water. Like, I'm not doing so hot right now. And so meanwhile, all this stuff's happening. Well, up above us, still those sheep that were up there are still up there. They're still farting around and kicking rocks, and they're making noise like they're still there. And so I walk over and I sit down on this rock, and I'm like, I'm just gonna glass up this hill and just look at these sheep and see if there's something up here, that's crazy big. And I sit on this rock, and there's ocotillo. If the listeners don't know what ocotillo are, they're like big cactuses, but they just grow one stalk and they grow really tall, 10, 11 feet. And it kind of looks like upside down octopus legs just sticking up out of the desert floor. And I sit down, and this ocotillo makes a V right up the hill, but like in front of me. And I pull my binos up, and I'm just kind of scanning up the hill, and I look through and right in the middle of that V, I'm like, man, that is a weird looking rock. Like, it's real smooth.
Round,
yeah. Like, that's kind of interesting, kind of round. And I pull my binos up and focus them, and I'm like, holy shit. His sheep is laying right there dead. We have walked 20 yards from this sheep. I can't tell you how many times. And sure enough, he went uphill from where Stevie shot him. And so I'm like, Stevie, I found him. Like, he's right there. Now that I pull my binos, I can see him with my naked eye. And so we take off. We're like, cool, we got him. Crawl up there, get to him, take a couple pictures. Not many, because we're done, and we're like, all right, let's get him caped out, and let's get out of here. I'll also say that everybody talks about how bad these sheep stink, and like, they do stink. They smell like burning tires. Is the best description I can.
Burnt rubber for sure.
Yeah, they're.
I don't know much about Barbary sheep other than they like what do they? They like to eat what are those little fruit on cactus? The red things. Yeah,
they'll eat those in yuccas. We watch them eat a lot of yuccas.
Yeah. Oh, they ate the shit out of some yuccas.
Yeah, they got some tough mouths that they're just chewing on cactus. But yeah.
But once we got to my sheep, the thing that kind of blew my mind, which I don't know if anybody knows this, which I damn sure didn't. Their hooves are soft.
Yeah,
the bottoms of their hooves are soft. I mean, it just blew my mind that they were so smooth and soft.
Yeah, it's almost like they're like moccasins, I guess, just from them crawling. They need that to grip on those rocks. Would be my attention. And they have a big like underneath their kind of their brisket bone, if you would. They have a big callus right there.
Yep.
And I think it's literally from them climbing up and down those rocks. Like, it's just this big. I mean, it's probably 6 inches long, big callus, right?
At least.
Right on their
is that like underneath? Because Audad or Barbary sheep have that like long beard, kind of like
they got that long.
It just comes out of their chest. And they got all that hair. So is it underneath that hair? Is that callus?
Yep. It's right underneath that hair. And that hair doesn't grow all the way down. Like, so it looks like it would grow all the way between their legs, but it kind of makes like a Y shape almost.
Okay.
So it doesn't go all the way down their neck, to between their legs. And so they got that callus. And so, and I'll also disclaimer, like, we talked to the guys but the guys that own the ranch and some people in town. And I got real mixed reviews on whether Barbary sheep meat is good to eat. And it was probably 70-30 to the one guy said you should cook Barbary sheep like this. You put it in a crock pot with a bigger rock, and then once it's done, you throw the Barbary sheep out and eat the rock. So,
yeah. You want to know a funny thing about that joke? So I made that exact same joke when I had Ted Nugent on the podcast about Sandhill Crane. I don't think he was very receptive to my joke.
No.
Come on.
Ted Nugent was like, no, I love Sandhill Crane, and I told him the joke about my father-in-law's joke. Either way, so I've had Audad. I've been Audad hunting once, had no luck, but the gentleman who brought Audad, and it was phenomenal. He made gyros. So Remy Warren has a gyro recipe. And what he says is that Audad is often very much like, say, pronghorn antelope. You hunt them in hot weather.
Right.
And if you don't take care of them quickly, the meat will spoil quickly. And so I believe, sounds to me like you guys hustled around for a while. That Audad didn't make it very far. He was probably dead.
Yeah.
I'm not sure your meat will be delicious or not, but that's what I hear. And I've had it, and it was
bloated. And
yeah, I'll tell you what. The one time I had it, I've been like craving it since. At least that recipe. It was because it was delicious gyros that I had with that guy. So,
well, we'll have to go again next year and bring some meat back. We didn't pack meat on this deal. So we get up there and we're like, all right, let's get him caped out. Let's get him hauled off the mountain and get back. And Stevie starts trying to cut the sheep up, because I could have chewed through this cake faster than his knife was doing it. We're hacking away. I don't have any knives. We both left our packs. This is the only knife we got between us. I don't have anything. And we're trying to get this sheep caped out. And I'm like, my gosh, dude, have you ever sharpened this knife? He said, bro, I bought it brand new on the way down here. Like, I bought it on the way to come to your house to leave.
He gave me 4 days to do this. Like,
yeah. And you rolled in with a plastic butter knife. It sounds
yeah.
like.
I'm over here with the consumable.
And so we finally get this sheep caped out, and now we got to find the joint to to cut his head off. Well, I heard somewhere, and this is again probably a little bit my fault, that for a taxidermist to to shoulder mount, they want to have like 6 or 8 inches of neck to get the form size right. So I'm like, all right, we're not going to cut him off. You're supposed to cut him like right at the base of the skull. But I'm like, man, we can cut it wherever. We can just find a vertebrae and cut through it. And my gosh, I bet you it took us as long to get that cut made and get his head taken completely off as it did the whole rest of the caping project.
Yeah.
Finally get him caped out. And now we are both like, so we were both cooked before we found him. Now we're like super well done, right? Like, please take me off the fire. I'm
with a mile to the truck, right?
Only a mile and
it had to have
change.
been longer than that.
So I'm like, all right, we got him. Let's go back, get our packs. We can load him on the pack. Stevie, I'll carry my gun and your gun and my pack, and you can carry your sheep and your pack out. And Stevie owns the heaviest 300 Win Mag I think that's ever been made. I don't know how much that gun went. I'd rather carry this thing, dude. It was so heavy. And so we take off.
I don't know if it's the Mach 5. I don't know, but that thing is heavy as it has to be 20 pounds.
It's so heavy. So we're schlepping this thing off the hill, and we'll make it a couple hundred yards and stop. And we're like hands on our knees, huffing and puffing. I would say we're sweating, but at this point, neither one of us are sweating anymore. Like, can't spit. Like, we're dehydrated. We're kind of getting messed up, and we're just getting cooked. It's 92 degrees, and it's now like 2:00 in the afternoon, just getting baked.
Sounds like a nightmare.
We finally get to the truck. Both of us are about dead. I have a half an Nalgene of water that is ripping hot, and I chug it as fast as I can chug it, turn the truck on, crank the air conditioner. I'm like, dude, we got to get back. We're not that far from the camp. I'm like, we got to get back. So we get back to camp. They have like an overhang, like an awning kind of deal. And we pull the truck underneath that, got the air conditioner ripping, and we're just sitting there. I bet you we just sat there in the air conditioner, not talking, nothing, just sitting there.
We just leaned the seats back and relaxed. I mean,
we
both chugged the water. No, it was bad.
Let me ask you a question. Did you guys drink the night before at all?
Not at all.
No.
I was if you did, I bet you wouldn't have been able to do what you did that day because you'd be too dehydrated.
I bet you're right.
Lucky that snake scared the whiskey right out of you. That's what I have to say.
No, yeah, we did 0 drinking that night. The night before, and like we were cooked, and I'm like, dude, we finally kind of get around. The 2 guys that own the place came down, and they were like, oh yeah, we heard you guys shoot. They were out working on something. I don't know what they were doing, but yeah, we heard you guys shoot. Check that sheep. I'm like, oh, cool, you guys got a pretty good one. But we're just like kind of walking ghost still. We're just like so jacked up from how hot it was. And I'm like, man, all I want to do right now is eat. I was like, we need to go to town and get some ice to get your cape ice down. So we run to town, get the ice, come back, and I'm like, we're not going to hunt tonight. Like, I'm so tired. We're not going to do anything. So we glass that evening. I see a great big ram in a saddle. He does the most majestic sheep stuff. He walks into this saddle, skylines himself, sun setting, the wind's blowing his mane. And I'm like, this would be like a movie. He's big.
So majestic.
And I'm like, he's so big that I am absolutely not going to get off this chair right now and go chase him. Like, I don't care. I'm about to, I'm cooked still. So finally get to bed that night and wake up in the morning, and we definitely feel a lot better than we did the night before. But Stevie's got a sheep down, so now it's my turn. And we just run the same play the next day. We're like, we're gonna go to the same spot, and we'll glass the same area we've glassed. We'll see if there's sheep there. And on the way up there, my cousin had said, I talked to him that night before, and he's like, hey, there's this bowl that we always see sheep in, and it's the bowl that big ram walked into. He's like, man, you guys should go check that out in the morning. Yeah, cool. We'll do that maybe after we go to the first spot. And as we're driving up to the first glassing spot, we kind of are going past the road that goes into that bowl. And I'm like, let's just go in there really quick. Let's just drive in there and see what we can see. And so we thought the first road was rough. I think the second road that goes into that bowl was worse than the first road. And
I mean, on that road, you'd have to have a UTV, ATV. I mean, there'd be
gotcha.
No trailer, no nothing.
Nothing. Val got the truck stuck a couple different times in there, not because of like sand, like because the rocks were so big and they would be spaced apart just right that like my whole tire would sit down in this little rock kind of crevice, if you will. I'm like, we're just stuck, couldn't go anywhere.
Jeez.
So finally make it back into that bowl, and I'm like, surely to goodness, as hard as it was to get back here, we're gonna find something. And there is not a sheep anywhere, none.
That's how it works.
Can't find, not seeing anything. And I'm like, man, this stinks. So we
Yeah,
drive.
we're getting a little discouraged.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm like, man, it was so easy. And it was so easy. And another thing, my cousin had said this in the back of my mind. He's like, you know, hunt from the road. Don't go beating around and hiking a bunch because like you'll bump those sheep out, kind of out of the country. Like if you get way up in the top of the cliffs where they want to hang out, like you might kind of bump them off the place. So he's like, just stay down low. And once you get one killed, like go get them and get out as quick as you can. So you're not in there, messing around where these sheep are at. And so I'm like, man, we spent so much time over there yesterday looking for Stevie sheep. Like we probably ruined the whole thing. Oh my gosh. I'm, getting discouraged. The highs and the lows, right? Get back to the first glass of knob. Don't see anything. Start driving around that lone peak. And we see a couple sheep, like just 2 or 3. Nothing in there. Okay, we'll keep driving around a little more. Couple more. Not really much. And we see another little group of sheep, and we called them no sheep. They were at the very, very top of that peak, super cliffy, nasty. There was a couple kids, little, baby sheep, jumping around and farting around, look like little mountain goats up there, just cruising around on all these big rock faces. And I'm like, oh, that was cool. And we see, as we keep driving around, we finally get into like a group of sheep, and there's 2 big rams. And I will say, I feel a little bit bad for Stevie because when, I don't know how to judge these sheep, right? As I'm talking to my cousin,
on that one, you could tell.
After he's killed 2 sheep, I'm like, how do you know, like, if it's a big one versus, I can't tell the difference between a 27-inch ram and a 30-inch ram. Like, I got no idea. And he said, if you see a shooter, like a big one, you'll just know. Like, okay, whatever you say. And we popped around the corner and glassed that group of sheep up, and I was like, yeah, you just know. Like, that is a big sheep.
I mean, we were probably, what would you say, Phil, probably 600 to 800 yards from when we were on the road. And
yeah,
we
were probably 800 yards from that group of sheep when we first glassed them up on the road, and we're like,
oh,
yep.
Yeah. I mean, being sheep. That far, we could absolutely tell.
And so we're like, all right, let's go stalk this group of sheep. And so I'm looking, and I'm like, all right, well, there's this big rock outcropping, kind of like a bluff or just like a giant boulder that sits out. I'm like, we can basically walk straight at these sheep, but we're going to be behind that boulder. The sheep way up at the top will be able to see us, but as long as they don't booger, like, we'll be fine. And I knew from the day before, like, we had sheep above us the whole time, and they didn't really care. And so we just take off, and we hiked pretty fast. I mean, like, we were kind of not quite running, but we were boogieing. Yeah. And the way that group of sheep was working, like, as we came to that bluff, we were going to cut around behind it and, kind of come around the other side of it, and they should be feeding in right to where we were at. And so get up there, pop up, and I'm like, glassing, get to where I think these sheep are going to be. I'm glassing, and I'm like, I don't see them. And everyone's, before this hunt, like, hey, you need to be able to shoot far. Like, they killed a sheep at 1,000 yards. A couple hunts before that, 700. And like, I'm thinking like, hey, these sheep will have, they'll be 500-600 yards away. Glassing, I don't see them. And then all of a sudden I look up, and they're like 200 yards.
Yeah, they're right on top of us.
We're like about to
So you didn't bring your bow, Phil, is what I'm hearing.
I did not bring my bow. No, I don't know. I mean, I guess you could bow hunt these things. I'm sure I know people do, but some of where these sheep are at, I'm like, I have no clue how you bow on them. I don't know how you get to where they are without blowing them out of the country. But I'd flop down on the ground. I'm like, Stevie, get down there, right there. And I flop down on the ground, get my gun out. And they're kind of same kind of deal. Like they're, I think they've maybe have seen us. They're not really leaving yet, but you can kind of tell they're getting a little restless. Yeah. And get on my sheep. All right, they're, getting clear, shoot. And I actually, we both are on the right sheep this time. So this is a little easier. We don't have to worry about the rodeo we had the day before. We shoot and we both watch him go down. I'm like, sweet, we've got a second sheep. Second
you hear
sheep
that,
down.
Stevie? That's how you do it.
Yeah. It's because he had a good spotter.
Yeah, you hear that? Phil, that was what you should be saying.
That's a good point.
Stevie did that. I did the exact same thing Stevie did. I wasn't even talking to him. I was like, it's the big sheep, and I got my gun on him, and I hope you're looking because I don't care. I'm about to shoot him. Like, he's right there, and we're fixing to get him. And shoot this sheep, and I'm like, cool. It's, we take off to go up there and get him. And I have like my little spot marked. I was better this time, and I marked like, this is where we shot from. Should be right there. And we're going, and I'm like, I got this big white dead yucca that he should be, I can see him. He's laying right next to it. All right, cool. He's in a lot steeper. Like Stevie's sheep was in a pretty rocky spot, but like not quite as steep. I don't feel like as
I agree.
Yeah.
as where mine was at. And like to get to mine, it's not very far. It's probably only 80 vertical feet, but it is like up the cliff bank kind of.
Well, I feel I kind of feel before you finish, I kind of feel like you wanted to go on a little hike. You know what I mean? I think you didn't want to catch up to the day before, but you damn sure wanted to go on a hike.
Yeah, I wanted to make us like have to work a little bit. It wasn't not like Texas whitetail hunting over a feeder. Not that
there you go.
But
you wanted to work for it for sure.
We needed to work a little bit. So I take off and I'm in front and we're both like picking our way through these boulders. We're not really walking with each other. We're kind of, spread out and I'm cruising. I don't know, 20, 30 yards from Stevie and he stops and he goes, dude, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to my sheep. He's right there. And he's like, no, you're not. He's right here. I'm standing right next to him. He's just standing right in front of him. So it was kind of funny. I found his sheep. He found my sheep and get mine taken care of. I brought knives that were actually sharp. So Capon didn't take nearly
Were
as
your
long
knives
as,
not in your bag to help Stevie? Like, did you make
my
him
knives
use
were,
his dual knives?
So no, remember
his knives were in the pack. He just didn't have his pack.
Oh yeah, okay.
We left the packs across the canyon so we could see where we shot from. And so I actually had my
That's
stuff
right.
this time. And I have a little backpacking saw that everyone talks smack to me about carrying. It's the handiest. It's just like a little wire saw with 2 nylon handles.
It was cool as hell.
And I was like, I'm not jacking around with how long it took us to cut this sheep's head off, like Stevie's did. But I pulled my little saw out and use it and take it off, get the cape pulled off, load him in my pack, and my sheep had one last, dig at me the whole way. The way I put him in my pack, we were kind of on that cliff face, and so I didn't really take a ton of time to like load my pack perfect. And one of his horns was sticking me right in the, like in the love handle, the whole way down. I had a little bruise on my side where he was just digging. I like kept moving. I'm like, man, he kind of moving. I'm not a little dude.
Yeah.
You know that, but maybe both you guys know that. And so like I barely fit in between this sheep's horns. I do fit, but like it's a tight squeeze. And so he's got one horn that's sticking me all the way down. And we hiked back down. The downhill part was pretty gnarly. It wasn't that far, but like to get down into the bottom where we could actually catch one of the river washes and walk normal. That was a kind of sketchy hike. It was 2 trekking poles and go real slow.
Yeah,
but
that's funny you say that, man. When I shot my elk, I asked Jermaine Hodge, and I was like, hey, should I put these antlers up or down to get out of here? He's like, oh, yeah, you're big enough. Like, they're not going to drag on the ground. Go ahead and put them down. I put them down, and then we proceeded to walk through like 800 yards of bear brush. So I was just catching every bush for like a mile, and it was awful. And then he tied up the hide with paracord, and then it just sort of slowly slid out to the left. So I was dragging, and then the hide was just smacking me in the ass the entire 2-mile hike out. It was miserable. I've never had a worse pack out, which means I just haven't killed very many bulls. But continue, man. I'm sorry.
I wouldn't say it was a miserable pack out. Like it was just the right. I told him when we got there, I'm like, that was the right amount of suffering. Like it was hard. I'm tired. I'm a little sweaty, but like
I'll tell you what, Michael. I on this hunt because he just picks one, shoots it, we clean it, we freaking cape it. He throws it on his pack. We're at the truck in about 30 minutes. Yeah. And then on mine, we're on a 7.5 hour hunt.
Yeah. We learned our lesson. We both had actually we almost did learn our lesson. I didn't forget about this. So we spot the sheep that I shoot and we jump out and I'm like, hey, Steve's not carrying his gun, he doesn't need anymore. And I'm like, hey, do you want to, but he has a really high powered scope. I'm like, do you want to take your scope and use it as a spotter? Or do you just want to take I have 15 power binoculars and then my 10s that I run in my chest rig. He's like, yeah, no, I'll just take your 10s or your 15s. I mean, so I'm like, yeah, cool. I stuff them in the bino harness that they come in and give them to him. And I throw my pack on with my water in it. And Stevie just takes off from the truck. And I just
take off with the binos.
I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm going to get the sheep. And I'm like, put your pack on. Like, I watched you put water in it earlier. Like, get your pack. We just did this yesterday. And he's like, oh, yeah. So he grabs his pack and we take off. But yeah, it was kind of funny. We got back, we got water, like nobody, no dehydration, none of that. And so we got a second sheep killed. Really nice. I mean, really nice ram. I don't remember what they said they taped at. Like 29-30, Steve's is like 27-28. So both really good.
Oh yeah,
really get
absolutely.
sleep and get them taken care of. So now this is Saturday, and like we don't have anything to do. We're done. We get all the stuff taken care of, and it's like
Find that
just
rattlesnake.
it's just late
Man,
enough
let's
in
go
the day.
hunting.
It's like we could leave and go home, but we're like, man, if it would be fine to get to my house, but then Stevie's got another couple hours past me to get to his house. I'm like, dude, you're gonna get home at like midnight. And so we decided, like, no, we'll just stay in camp one more night, sleep in, get up early, cook a big breakfast. Like, we'll just hang out. And we talked to the guys that own the place, and there's another guy in the little town that my cousin had been like, hey, there's a bar.
The bar, the
I say
city bar.
town. It's like a village. There's like 8 houses there.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, like you can just go hang out at the bar. And I'm like, oh, there's not a bar here. Well, we have met
We
the guy that
drove
owns
we
the
drove
place.
those houses at least 8 times, going back and forth
And I'm like,
to get ice.
yeah, because ice was a hot commodity. Like we could not keep enough of it. But,
Yeah.
and town wasn't that far away, so it wasn't like it was that big a deal to run into town and grab ice. But yeah, so we finally figure out where the place is, and we stop in there and we hang out with the guy that owns that house, and we drink a beer or two, and we're hanging out. And
So is it a bar or is it like a house that like
no,
has you can buy beers
It's a
from?
house that has a backyard bar.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
And
an outdoor.
it had to be the coolest shit ever. Little man cave. I
Yeah,
mean, it had a foosball. I mean, full kitchen.
That's
yeah, and
It was
amazing.
excellent.
it's all outside. So I mean, like it's got a covering, like it's out, like it's open air, I guess would be what you would call it. Like there's no
Yeah.
wall, and it's dirt floor. Like it's just the typical, like the prototypical Southwest Texas on the border kind of like this is what you draw up in a movie is what it
Right.
would look like. So we're hanging out with this
Guarantee
guy.
he doesn't have a liquor license, is what you're telling
Well,
me.
we're not buying. Yeah, we're not buying booze from this guy. He just has a fridge in there that's got beer in it, and we're hanging out drinking beer.
Okay.
And
All right. I gotcha.
so I'll rewind a little bit. Back in the camp, there in the room where you're sleeping, there's this big. It's like a banner almost, and this picture of this guy with this big handlebar mustache riding a horse. There's like a couple different pictures, kind of in a collage, but
Yeah,
we're
like
trying
a
to figure out.
reared up horse. I mean, he looks pretty majestic himself.
Yeah, and we're like, who is this guy? So we've met the guys that own it, and we're like, is it this guy or is it this guy? And we're like, because the picture's kind of old. And we're like, who is this? And so we're at that guy's house drinking beer, and this Ford Dually pulls up, and I'm telling you what, like the Marlboro man of the border gets out of this pickup, and we both look at each other, and we're like, that's the guy. Like he's got the stash, he's got the cowboy hat, and he's got it pulled down super low over. You can barely see his eyeballs, and he's got what was there like 6 people in that pickup with him?
I at least.
Just people, yeah. These, and I don't want to like.
Oh bullshit! I can say it.
Yeah, you can say it.
20 Mexicans come out of this Ford, and we're like, I mean, as all get out, they come. I mean, they were so polite. This guy's ordering these kids around, like, hey, go get these guys a beer. Hey, go get Phil a beer. Hey, go. It's just like, what the hell is going on here?
It's like he's got his little troop, like it's like his little army, and he's ordering people around, and we're sitting there drinking, hanging out. We were gonna go. The guy that owned that house, he was like, "Hey, do you guys want to go into this other town, and we'll go to an actual bar and watch a football game, and get dinner or whatever." I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And so in between, when we were gonna leave and go do that, this other crew rolls in, and so he's like, "Hey, we need to cook something." And then all these guys have probably been drinking for a while, right? Like no one's super sober.
Okay.
And
All right.
he's like,
this.
we need to cook something. And he's like ordering his guys around, like, you go get the wok and you go get the meat. And so I'm just sitting in a lawn chair drinking a beer, watching these 20 guys running around, and they get this great big wok, like a plow disc wok out, and they light a fire, and they've got these 2 big bags of frozen meat that I don't have a clue what are. Like I have no idea. It's not cow, and I'm pretty sure it's not pig. And they start cooking this stuff up, and I swear they walked over there. I watched them the whole time. They had 2 bags of meat and 1 onion. That's all I saw them take out of anything.
Yeah.
And they're cooking and doing the stuff and whatever. And then they're like, all right, food's ready. We walk over, and this wok is full of this cooked meat in some kind of like gravy sort of sauce with like chili peppers and onions and garlic. And I'm like, where did all this come from? And a stack of homemade tortillas.
Some magic.
I'm like, yeah, it is magic. And I'm pretty sure it was goat, which I don't care. It was delicious. And so, yeah, we hung out that night.
Yeah.
he's got like all of his. There's like 17 Virgin Marys in the backyard. It's a very Catholic area, and so we're sitting around with all these different statues and stuff, and he's got rope lights in his trees, and like it is just again like the perfect border town Saturday night party. Like we're just hanging out with all the local people around there and eating cooked goat.
And all 8 people that were from that town were there. I promise you.
The whole town was there, and they're like, "Hey, this is what we do every Saturday night. Like, we come to this guy's house and hang out. Like, no invite needed. Like, even if he's not here, we just show up and cook out Saturday night."
That's awesome. I've been down to like Terlingua. I don't know if you've been down there. I know that's
absolutely.
not too far from Marfa, and I can imagine what you're saying. I imagine like Terlingua is also a booming metropolis compared to what you're talking about.
Right.
Yes, there's not a business in the little. Again, I say town. Like I can't really call it a town. It's more of a village, I guess. But there's not a business there. There's a Catholic church that has mass. What was it, Stevie? Like every third Sunday or
2:00 in the afternoon, like one Thursday a month or something.
Yeah, this old church. So, but yeah, it was cool. It was a great end to the hunt and hang out. I say it was a great end. That night, some kind of bug got a hold of me. And Steve, I don't know if I've told you that like the rest of this. I got ate up by something. And we're driving back the next day, and I'm like, man, my legs are itchy, like kind of bad. And so I stop at the gas station and get some lotion. I'm like, maybe they're just dry. I don't know. And man, I tell you what, by the time I got home, I had like 50 or 60 bug bites all around my ankles.
No way.
And like kind of up the back of my calves. I don't know if it was chiggers. It couldn't have been chiggers. There's no water there. I have no idea what kind of bug this was.
Maybe.
I thought it was from that chupacabra you ate the night before.
Dude, I thought I was having I thought I was having a reaction. They itched so bad for like 3 nights after we got home. It would wake me up in the middle of the night, and I'd have to go put ice packs on my legs to get them numb enough I could go back to sleep. And I'm rubbing like
can't take you
aloe vera and sugar X cream and like cortisone. Like, I mean, I about bought a pharmacy out of their bug bite stuff. I couldn't put pants on. I couldn't wear socks. Like, it was miserable.
That's a sight to see, Phil.
I mean, I wore shorts, but like I wasn't, it wasn't that far up my leg. But yeah, it was a good thing I didn't have to be at anybody's wedding or wear a suit or anything. I would have been in trouble. Yeah, we got back and got the sheep all taken care of, and yeah, it was a rodeo of getting to the hunting. The actual hunting part went perfect. Like both of our stocks were perfect. Wind was always right. Sun was perfect. Like we did the hunting part great. It was just literally everything else went to hell in a handbasket. It seemed like every time we turned around.
That's amazing, man.
Two of the best stocks that I've ever been part of. But I mean, new hunting buddy. I mean, shit. I would have never thought that Phil would be so into hunting the way he was. I mean, we had such good conversations throughout the nights that we were together, but this guy is big time. You'll like the rest of these guys' hunts. Hopefully he gets one this year.
Yeah, I'm hoping that hopefully this mule deer hunt coming up goes good. But yeah, it was awesome. Same with Stevie, and I could hear some of his stories. So Stevie, I'll let you end our conversation. You got to tell the story about the place you went hunting in. You might also have to talk about your other Audad hunt that did never happen, because that story was hilarious. But you can give the quick and dirty.
So the Audad hunt was something wild. I mean, so I'm a drive engineer. I build conveyor all day, every day. I had some vendors that actually invited me to go to Del Rio for a deer hunt there, and awesome hunt. Shot some really cool stuff. Definitely a different terrain than what we were used to down south where we hunted. But I had we all shot deer. There was 6 of us. They're all different vendors, different customers. Shot very, very nice deer. Even some odd stuff. The last night we were there, there was only 2 of us left, and the guy said, "Hey, man, I've seen you clean your deer. Can you teach me how to clean one? Quarter it, gut it, clean it." And I said, "Absolutely." I said, "I'll tell you what, I'll clean this half the deer, you clean this other half." And we're caping it. We're pulling the cape and everything, and he had this little, what were we talking about, Phil? It was like a doctor's scalpel or something.
Yeah, like a Havilon, like the replaceable blade.
Yeah, like the Havilons, yeah. And so I'm cutting. I mean, I'm just with a J hook, and I said, "You do what I do." So we're cutting, And this guy, I mean, literally, Mike just sticks that knife right through the palm of his hand.
Oh
And
shit.
at this point, I'm excited because I'm like, let's get these deer cleaned, and we got an Audad hunt in the morning. Like the
Yeah.
owner of the place was like, hey, we got extra tags. Since y'all two are there, y'all go on this hunt. And so yeah, we were so excited. Maybe he was too excited and just missed his cut. And I mean, he stuck that scalpel right through his palm of his hand,
Are you telling me in the front, out the back?
in the front and completely out the back.
What the hell?
If you can stick
Okay.
it through the palm, yeah, it was wildest thing. So let me tell you this. Uh, when I get an animal, my mouth waters. I mean, I'm excited. I'll take a bite of it right there.
Yeah.
This deal, I don't like people's blood on me. And so this guy's just bleeding everywhere. He drops a knife. I mean, we're cleaning him. We have nothing but liquor, so you know what we cleaned with. And
Whiskey.
and so we wrap him up with a t-shirt. Yeah, yeah. We wrap him up with a t-shirt, and I've got my F-250 loaded up. Like we got to go. I'm taking him to Del Rio. This is the first time I've ever been to this ranch.
Yeah.
So I'm like, dude, you gotta get me out of here. There's bump gates and combination locks and stuff like that. And this guy is probably, I would say, in his 60s,
Okay.
and he's just in and out. He keeps passing out, in and out,
No
in
shit.
and out. I mean, completely out.
And it's just you and him in your truck. Like no one else
Absolutely.
came along. No
Yes,
ranch
sir.
hand. None of the guides. Nothing like that.
Nobody. There is nobody
That's
with us.
ridiculous.
I
Okay.
mean, we're headed back. He gets me through a couple of gates. He passes out. And all I've got in the bed of my pickup is beer. And I'm over here like, hey man, you got to stay up. You got to get me out of here. I got to get you to the hospital. And so I have him start chugging beers. And he's not a drinker by any means. And he's drinking. Anyway, we finally get out of the ranch. It was 17 miles, longest 17 miles I've ever even encountered.
I'm
Um,
sure.
but anyway, and then we got a 45-minute drive to Del Rio. And
Jesus. Okay.
so we get to the hospital, and this guy, like, they have him on the table with his hand out. They've got these long Q-tips sticking them inside that wound, in and out, kind of trying to get it cleaned up. And I get the giggles for whatever reason. And I mean, this doctor's about to kick me out of the hospital because I cannot stop laughing. I mean, he's just so in. He'd be answering questions and laughing and stuff, and then he would just drop. I mean, like a bag of potatoes just fall to the
Yeah.
ground. And oh my gosh, man. I think I laughed so hard. That was probably one that I mean, what this hunt with Phil is probably my second favorite, just second to this one.
Yeah.
Because even though I didn't get my Audad hunt, I mean, dude, that was the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life. And little to say, we did not make it back to camp that night.
Yeah.
We
I'm
actually got a
sure,
room.
man.
So, but
I'm,
no,
I'm
that
hoping
was
the guy made it, right? It wasn't anything. He didn't lose too much blood or anything like that, right?
I don't know. I don't know if he lost too much blood. I never saw him after that. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. No, he lived, and his name was Jeff, man. I hope he listens to this and he'll remember that story. But I've got lots of pictures of that, man.
I
Oh,
bet. God, I can't believe that. I wonder how he managed to cut a hole through his entire hand. I can imagine lots of gnarly wounds, but not a straight up stab wound through your palm.
I had never been part of that. My wife's an RN, and luckily, she bugged me enough to stick a small first aid kit in my bag,
Yeah.
and that was the only thing he had, man. That and liquor.
That's hilarious. Well, Stevie, I think you gotta finish this with the deal with that house. I don't remember where that was at, but the house they left unlocked.
That was in Benavides, Texas. I went on a whitetail hunt there, just next to the King Ranch,
Okay.
and man, we had I want to say it was the Santa Fe Ranch, if anybody's ever heard of that. But we got there, we opened, they gave us a code of the gate. We drive in, and we drive up to this beautiful. I mean, it was a beautiful camp. They had like a gazebo with a chimenea and grills, and I mean, it was awesome, man. And we got there, and you walk up to the camp door and doors unlocked. I mean, you go to the uh to the barn, doors unlocked. I mean, all this stuff just unlocked. I mean, everything. I mean, the
Yeah.
blinds were unlocked, the restrooms were unlocked. I mean, everything was kind of blew my mind, and we went on a hunt, shot big stuff, and a couple of big whitetails I'd have to tell you all about. But anyway, the next night, which was the second night we were there, the owners came in and had kind of a little baile, a little dance and party for us. And I asked one of the owners, I said, "Hey, just a quick question." I said, "Why is all this stuff open? Why are all these houses and stuff open?" And they said, because the immigrants coming across the border, they're coming across to get to our country, and instead of them breaking in to our camp or to our houses, we just leave them open to where if we're not here, they just looking for a pillow to lay on, a bed to sleep on. They're not trying to hurt anything.
Huh.
And so that just blew my mind. Like they live like that. Like they leave their houses open, their barns unlocked. I mean, their cars. If they want to sleep for the night, that's all they're gonna do is sleep. Maybe grab a bottle of water and be on their way. But
Yeah.
absolutely blew my mind that these people live like that. That's normal to them.
That's crazy. Man, I
But
would
Yeah,
never have expected that.
yeah,
it was a wild story. We were talking, kind of circling back to our hunt. The wives were like, are you guys sure you're gonna be cool? It's like right on the border. It's not gonna be any like crazy stuff. And I was like, I don't know. I don't think so. Like, I doubt my cousin would send me down to some place that's sketchy like that. And man, we got down there and Stevie and I both looked at each other and we're like, if this is where you picked to cross the border, like if this is the spot you wanted to come over at, like come on, but stop and we'll give you a pair of track shoes and some shorts and send you to the Olympic Training Center. Cause like you are an in shape mother if
oh
you
yeah,
cross
Yeah.
in this country. Like it was rough and steep. And so I was laughing, laughing at that. And the border patrol, there's a check you have to drive when you're going back north from the ranch. You have to go past a border patrol check. And I feel like our checks got, a little bit less strict the first time. It was like, hey, are you guys citizens? How many guys are in your vehicle? I'm like, yeah, we are. It's just two of us. All right, cool. Go ahead. The second guy was like, just, are you guys citizens? Yep. Go ahead. Third time we go through it, that we just roll the window down. The guy looks at us, doesn't say a word, and just points. Is like, go right ahead. It cracked me up. I'm like, man, that's all you got to do is just answer yes. Like, you just say yes, I'm from here, and they're like, go on.
Get on. That's pretty crazy, man. I've been through some of those checkpoints, but mine have all been like pull over and they just talk to you real quick. Nothing quite like just a point through.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. They may have seen our truck a couple times because we'd gone back and forth a couple different times, but it was a different
Yeah.
guy every time. So yeah, it was funny. He didn't say a word. Just gave us the point and said, y'all go ahead. But
Well, man, those are some crazy stories. That was a fun man. Phil. I wish I was at that Audad hunt with you. I know you invited me. That being said, if I had, it wouldn't have ended the way that it did, and you wouldn't have this amazing story to tell. So I'm glad Stevie was able to make it out there with you. I'm glad that you had some fun. Question I have, real quick, is your cousin? How does he know these guys? Is he a guide for them, or like what is their relation and how he hooked you up with this hunt?
I would love to answer that question, except I don't know the answer to that question.
Oh,
Um,
well, that
he's been hunting
sounds
down there. He's
legit.
been hunting down there for 15 years, and
Okay.
you just got to know. Like my cousin, I always joke and be like, I don't ever know what he's doing, and I never know what he's driving. Um,
Yeah.
he runs a company in the eastern New Mexico and swaps vehicles, and he hunts a ton. He does guide for I think an outfitter still. I don't know how many hunts he takes. Like, I don't know, but he'll be the guy that'll just, you'll call him and be like, hey, let's get together. And he's like, oh, dude, I'm in Mexico today. And then you might
Yeah.
call him a week later and he's like, oh, man, I'd love to, but I'm in South Dakota. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Like, where are you going? So I don't know. I have no clue. And they were
Okay.
just like, yeah, I don't know. They're like, he's just been here for forever. We don't really even remember how he got hooked up with us. But
That's funny, man. Well, if he gets another Audad hunt, let me know. When you asked me, I was like 5 days back from spending 2 weeks gone elk hunting, and I was like, I need to put a little bit more family time in before I can get out again. But
yeah, I was like,
it sounds like a fun time. Although you might have lost me at that rattlesnake, and I might have just gotten in the car and gone home.
yeah, I don't. Well, you wouldn't have gone home that night. It'd have taken you 3 hours to get back to the actual road to get home.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, this was a lot of fun. I don't know if you have any other stories you want to tell. Phil, I know I've heard plenty from you. Stevie, any other stories you want to say? Otherwise, we can wrap this thing up.
I appreciate you having us.
Yeah, man. It was a lot of fun. Cool. Well, then, why don't we tell the people where they can find you if you even care, or you can walk off into the sunset if you want to share your Instagram, Facebook, if you got, aspirations as a YouTube star, that stuff, whatever. You guys tell me.
Stevie, I'll let you go first. I don't even know what my Instagram
you can find
is.
Stevie. You can find Stevie at Stevie Stacks Industrial, Balderaz Farms on Instagram, and Stevie Stacks Cattle. I actually breed Wagyu cattle. Anybody out there looking for Wagyu meat, give me a shout.
Sweet. All right. Awesome, Stevie. Phil, you want to share Wise Phil or anything, or no?
Yeah, no, you can go right there. Wise Philip. It's WISE, and then Philip with 2 L's. That's the IG handle. If I get 1 follower, you have increased my following by like 15%. So let's get those numbers into double digits, people. I'm sick and tired of just being my mom that follows my Instagram.
Yeah, but she loves what you post. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks again, man. I appreciate you both. This was a ton of fun, and it's a great story. I've been waiting to hear it for a while now. But thank you, guys. I really do appreciate it.
Michael, it was impressive, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, and keep making stories, fellas. Let's get you back on again. We'll just keep Phil. You'll be a recurring guest. Stevie, now you're right there with him, man. You're his, or maybe Phil is your Robin to who you being Batman.
That? That's what I'm talking about.
For sure.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Have a good night, guys.
All right, folks, that's it. Another couple stories in the books. I want to thank Phil, of course, for being a good friend, a good listener. I mean, not a good listener, a long-time listener. And Stevie, of course, for coming along and sharing his stories above and beyond just the Audad story. I had a lot of fun talking to these fellas. Hope you enjoyed hearing their stories. Go ahead and check them out. I got all their links that you would need in the show notes. Give Phil a follow so that his mom's not the only one there. Beyond that, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it, as always. Make sure you give us a rating us 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars, whatever. I don't care. On whatever platform you're currently listening to us on. Beyond that, that's it, fellas. Get out there and make some stories of your own.